about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. I don't know what the heck is going on. You know, I understand mistakes happen when it comes to food, but this one doesn't make a lot of sense to me here. So we have an egg product that has been recalled because it was misbranded. And really, they couldn't get the label right. A major egg recall, this is liquid egg products, have had to be voluntarily recalled by Minnesota producer Michael Foods because of a labeling mix-up. Apparently, the company's breakfast blend scrambled egg product was accidentally put into cartons labeled Fair Meadow Foundation's whole eggs with citric acid. You guys aren't just getting regular eggs. The scrambled egg product contains milk, which does not appear on the label of the carton because obviously the carton is for a different product. That's according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Food Safety and Inspection Service. Milk is a dairy item. It could have allergens. Some people might be lactose intolerant. Some people might not be able to tolerate the milk. They just need egg as egg. Michael Foods was alerted to an issue when a number of cartons for the whole egg product were unaccounted for. After an investigation, the mistake was discovered that a voluntary recall was issued for 4,620 pounds worth of liquid egg products. Now, many restaurants may use liquid egg product, a lot easier to deal with than cracking eggs and there being like shells and things. I mean, I still struggle to crack an egg. I know there's an easy way to do it, but somehow I always get shells, and I tell the kids it's fiber, but I struggle with that. But I will not go to liquid eggs because there's other components to them. I want natural, as natural as I can. I mean, not all the time. I do eat fast food, but if I'm going to make my kids eggs, the eggs are fine. Maybe I'll add a little butter. In fact, I call them mommy eggs when I was little. And so mommy eggs are where I blow a kiss onto the egg. Not any communicable disease, but I'll blow a kiss onto the egg. And then, because they liked ketchup, I would take the ketchup and make a smiley face. And there would be a big, like, 2 eyes and a big mouth with it. So I would do mama eggs. And they would always ask for mama eggs. And then, you know, they went to a restaurant and they're like, I want some mommy eggs, please. And then I had to kind of clarify, you know, guys, you're 16 years old now. You need to just call them scrambled eggs and I'll make them. I'll make them mommy eggs for you. Just get the order in because they're looking at me funny. So it took them a while for them to realize mommy eggs is only what I do. But the products were sent to restaurants in Alabama, Idaho, Louisiana, Minnesota, Nebraska, New Mexico, Ohio, South Carolina, and Utah. As a result, the products may still be in a bunch of restaurants, refrigerators, and institutional clients, such as hospitals, workplace, etc. So, you know, for those of you who might not have a milk allergy, it might be okay. But the problem is we don't want any product. You need to know what product. Also, what's the citric acid? Why is there citric acid in the other products? I'm a little confused. So these are being recalled. You know, if you think you are having any health effects, make sure you contact your medical provider. Right now, there have been no reports of people falling ill. But milk is one of 9 major allergens that is required to be listed on food labels by the FDA. And so, you know, the FDA is pretty strict about like peanuts, etc. There have to be, you know, let me see if I have that whole list for you guys. Okay, hold on a second. Yeah, I type quickly. But I don't know if it, okay, I don't know if I'll be able to pull up those 9. But milk allergies, obviously, oh yeah. Let me see here. Oh, no. It doesn't tell us. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. But there should be, obviously, if the food allergens are required to be labeled, that should be a slam dunk. And so my concern about all of this type of stuff is quality assurance and making sure things don't happen incorrectly is supposed to be basic to any company. And I'm always fascinated with the why. We don't get the why. Who screwed up? Was it Bob? Was it Daliah? Was it a machine? Was it AI? I would like some data as to how you had a swap like this. Such as when was it the Michigan-based Abbott plant for formula had to be closed down because of reported cases of Chronobacter Nagasaki, when I guess the investigation found no bacteria contaminant, but there were a couple babies who died that they thought was formula based, so there had to be that shutdown, and then we went into this huge formula shortage a couple years ago. If I'd like to know where and how this is happening. With the listeria outbreak back in 2012 that killed multiple people, caused miscarriages, was very, very scary. I think they linked it to cantaloupes and they linked it to dirty equipment. These are things that we could learn from. And is it that a worker was high? Is it that we need drug testing of employees? And I know that panics people now that marijuana is legal. A lot of people have it in their system. But if we have these types of issues that could be life-threatening, it's an honest conversation to have. It's an overdue conversation to have. Is it that the machines are messing up? Is there a glitch in the software? Now, maybe within the industry, they might be sending out memos saying, hey, guys, looks like there's a problem. All right, the machine will mess up. It'll switch the cartons. But you see, I was always under the impression that whenever you are working on a product, before you even do that, you make sure that you aren't working on multiple products at the same time. That there's ways to minimize mistakes. And the thing that I've been noticing, just overall, I've been noticing it in healthcare. I've been noticing it everywhere. In education, all that is a lot of people are doing things half-assed. When I hear from my patients and I hear from industry members of varieties of industries of mess-ups that happened, and I was like, thank God that got found. And you start to really wonder. So this just kind of tells us, guys, do your quality assurance. Make sure everybody's doing their jobs. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away.
Considered by most, optimized curcumin is one of the few bioavailable and highly absorbable curcumin products on the market. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch. Since most chronic diseases have inflammation, our optimized curcumin seems to be a perfect addition to any nutritional program. It makes sense to me that preventing or reducing inflammation is a key component to our overall health. The Mayo Clinic found that curcumin can decrease swelling and inflammation, has antioxidant properties, and research suggests that curcumin can prevent cancer, or at least slow the spread of cancer, and in many instances make chemotherapy more effective. It protects our healthy cells even from radiation. TotalWellness.com, where we help you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. And big thanks to Daniel, our producer. Just quickly recap the big 9 food allergens that the FDA requires labels to have if it's in the product are milk, eggs, fish, like bass, flounder, cod, crustaceans, shellfish, crab, lobster, shrimp, tree nuts like almonds, walnuts, pecans, peanuts, wheat, and soybeans. So any product has to label that as an allergen. Okay? You would also think food colorings and things like that, but the big 9 are those: milk, eggs, fish, crustaceans, tree nuts, peanuts, wheat, and soybeans. Okay, so Hurricane Beryl. We knew that this hurricane season was going to be a pretty active one. And unfortunately, Hurricane Beryl has made landfall as a Category 4 storm. So it made landfall on Grenada's Caracau Island, and I apologize for any mispronunciation. I've always thought it was Grenada or Grenada, but I want to make sure I'm pronouncing it right. And it strengthened into a Category 4 storm. National Hurricane Center said data from an Air Force Reserve Hurricane Center hurricane aircraft indicate that its maximum sustained winds have increased to 150 miles per hour. In the latest advisory, they say there was life-threatening winds, dangerous storm surge conditions, and occurring in Grenadine Islands, Caracau Island, and residents should not leave their shelter. Now, it is supposed to move quickly, go westward to west-northwestward. The storm is expected to move across the southeastern and central Caribbean Sea late Monday through Wednesday. It was a Category 3 before it re-strengthened, and it re-strengthened quickly. You are hearing that this was a historic storm because of how quickly it strengthened. Like overnight, we're like, wait a second, there's a hurricane, and then wow, it's already about to hit land. So they expect it to remain an extremely dangerous major hurricane as the core moves through the Windward Islands into the eastern Caribbean. They say some weakening is expected in the central Caribbean by midweek. Beryl will still remain a hurricane based on winds. Meanwhile, there was a tropical storm Chris that made landfall in Mexico. They're tracking that. And there may be another tropical depression starting in the Atlantic. I've been asked, do we think this is going to hit United States, going back to Beryl? It depends if it decides to make a turn. Right now, I am not seeing the path predictions do that. They're expecting it to hit Central America, Mexico, and then maybe dissipate. But right now, it's still too early to tell. If it does make a turn, it could turn right around, and then we see Galveston, Houston, Louisiana, and Gulf states possibly dealing with this. But right now, that is not being predicted at all. And so, the Colorado State University had predicted a, quote, well above average Atlantic Basin hurricane season this year. And so even though the average year has about 14.4 storms, researchers say they're expecting 23. And hurricane season roughly starts in June, ends by November, end of November. Even though we sometimes are seeing some tropical activity in May, here we are in July and, already having a Category 4 storm. Whoa. The researcher, the Colorado State University also predicted that of those 23 named storms, 11 will be hurricane, 5 of whom would be classified as major. And so September is usually the most active month. So this doesn't bode well that we already had our first major hurricane in July, early July. Now, September being the most active month, we have seen some activity that obviously will extend before or after. But with the winds, to review with you, using the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale, they will not call a tropical storm a hurricane until the winds hit 74 miles an hour. Once it's at 74 miles an hour, you're a Category 1. Once you're at 96 miles an hour, you're a Category 2. Once you're at 111 miles an hour, you're a Category 3. Category 4 is anything above 130, and then Category 5 is when you're over 157 miles per hour. And so being that this storm hit 150 mile per hour winds, we were talking almost a Category 5. How devastating could any of these be? You could get damage with any of them, even a tropical storm, even a tropical depression, depending on the flooding parameters and the ability to deal with stagnant water, mosquitoes, food banks, getting flooded. There's unfortunately a lot of things that can happen, but Category 3 storms are known to have the most devastating damage. Categories 4 and 5 are known to have catastrophic damage. So seeing that the Atlantic Ocean usually averages 12 to 14 named storms, and they're expecting 23, we do recommend that you be prepared. Just a quick review, Hurricane Katrina back in 2005 was a Category 5 at one point. When it made landfall, they said, it was downgraded to a 3. Still, even at a 3, it killed 1,800 people, caused $108 billion in damage, and I think the number is still rising as of complications from that. The deadliest hurricane to ever hit U.S. soil, however, was the Great Galveston Hurricane of 1900. Over 10,000 people died. I was there. It's there in Galveston, not there in 1900. I'm old, but not that old. But seeing the destruction of it, I wonder if that beach ever recovered. There's still there's like statues, and there's still historical plates and maybe statues. I'm not sure the word I'm trying to where they talk about that, and they talk about where the devastation was. And back then you didn't have the warning systems, but they still believe, even if there were the warning systems, the damage that hurricane hit, that Gulf unfortunately allows a lot of brewing. And one of the reasons why Hurricane Katrina was so damaging is it hovered. It didn't move quickly. And the waters of the Gulf are very warm, and those can unfortunately feed hurricane conditions. So according to Colorado State University researchers, they say current El Nino conditions are likely to transition to La Nina conditions this summer-fall, leading to hurricane-favorable wind shear conditions. Sea surface temperatures in the eastern and central Atlantic are currently at record warm levels, anticipated to remain well above average for the upcoming hurricane season. El Nino protects us from a bad Atlantic hurricane season. La Nina is higher risk. And we're going into a La Nina. Sorry about my allergies. So the forecast is for an above normal confidence. By the way, they decided this back in April. It blows my mind how these meteorologists can figure all this stuff out early. And I'm a science person, but wow. So they knew. El Nino refers to an ocean atmospheric interaction where sea surface temperatures rise near the equatorial Pacific, causing increased wind shear in the Atlantic equatorial region, and has been linked to lower than active hurricane seasons. La Nina is reflected by lower below average sea surface temperatures extending from the western to east central Pacific, and La Nina forecasts a more serious hurricane season. Warmer temperatures in the Atlantic and Caribbean, as well as monsoon activity coming off of Africa, dictate a lot of our hurricane activity. So we talked about the names. Alberto, Beryl. Beryl's our second named storm. So the fact that Beryl was already hurricane strength, whoa. Chris, Debbie, Ernesto, Francine, Gordon, Helene, Isaac, Joyce, Kirk, Leslie, Milton, Nadine, Oscar, Patty, Raphael, Sarah, Tony, Valerie, and William are the original names that we have. However, if the 21 names become exhausted, they got supplemental names ready to go. So how to prepare? Well, one is, if the officials say to evacuate, evacuate. Make sure, for those of us who live in areas that are near hurricane high risk locations, start getting your medical supply kit, your batteries, your blankets, your cash, your canned foods, water. Put your medications in waterproof containers. Have things in waterproof, fireproof casings. But prepare now. A big thing that we notice in Barbados and all that is now everybody's rushing to get supplies. We see this all the time, where we go about our daily life and all of a sudden we're like, oh, maybe we need to prepare, and then we start to see shelves completely bare. You could buy water a month or two in advance, and the water will be fine. You could buy canned foods. These are things. And make sure you also have plenty of water for pets. You need 1 gallon per day per person for at least 3 days, and then you need a quarter to a half a gallon per pet. Especially like my dog, that when she drinks, she splatters all over the place. I think they have special bowls that collect the splatter so that it drips back into the bowl, because boy, does she waste water. She splatters it all over the flippin' kitchen. Know your area's risk of hurricanes. Make sure you get your community's warning system, whether it's text. Make sure you still have an AM radio, people. AM radio is one of the best ways, if there are power outages and cell phone towers are down, to still at least get your core news and your preparations. And make sure you have a plan on where to go. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. We got a couple other recalls. Apparently, hundreds of canned coffee products are being recalled over botulism fears. Are you kidding me? Well, Tasting Table reports that Snap Chill LLC just recalled hundreds of products because they were concerned with botulism. The recalled products, I guess, come in metal cans. This is being reported by Mental Floss that contain 7 to 12 ounces of liquid. They've been sold under dozens of different brand names, all of which you find in, I guess, issued by the FDA. The FDA has them listed, called Bent Tree Coffee, Coffee Hound, Firegrounds, Intelligentsia, Red Rooster, and Wild Goose Coffee are some of the brands impacted. So they say the easiest way to tell if you should toss out your canned coffee is to look for the written part that says produced and distributed by Snap Chill LLC beneath the nutrition facts. The FDA recommends you destroy the product. If you want a refund, return it to wherever you bought it. Don't open it. Botulism, according to the CDC, as we've spoken about this on the show as well, is a rare but serious illness caused by a toxin that attacks the body's nerves. It could cause difficulty breathing, paralysis, even death. You could be weak, dizzy, get double vision, difficulty speaking, swallowing. Your abdomen could distend. You could be constipated. And Clostridium botulinum is a bacteria that produces the toxin. And the bacteria likes low oxygen or low acid environments. So when the reason why we worry about cans and you see the puffiness of can, throw it out, don't mess with it, is because that's obviously a low oxygen environment, but they could thrive in that. Now, symptoms don't necessarily have to happen right away. They can happen within hours of exposure or even up to weeks of exposure. So there are strict protocols to make sure there's no botulism toxins in canned foods. And so we're not sure how this happened with coffee, but apparently, there have been some concerns. Now, as we get more information, we'll let you know. But in the meantime, we also have this to wonder what's going on there. Medical manufacturers have had to recall 135 batches of medication over fear that their capsules could cause cardiac arrest. Glenmark Pharmaceuticals have recalled a bunch of batches of potassium chloride extended release capsules on behalf of Blue Point Laboratories Blue Point Laboratories recalled 21 batches of the same capsule. So 114 plus 21 equal 135. Now, this voluntary recall was issued because the capsules would not dissolute or dissolve well. So, unfortunately, by the time they do dissolve, it could cause high potassium levels, which could cause hyperkalemia. High potassium levels could unfortunately affect your heart, put you in an abnormal rhythm, could cause cardiac arrest. So, hyperkalemia is not something to mess with. Now, the recall for Glenmark was issued last Monday. The recall for Blue Point issued the following day. Now, potassium chloride is a very common supplement that people are taking. If you take a water pill, a diuretic like Lasix, hydrochlorothiazide, and your doctor says that your potassium is low, they write you potassium chloride. We give potassium chloride in the hospitals. We give we always want to maintain somebody's potassium because low potassium could also cause cardiac issues. So when a capsule does not dissolve correctly or dissolute correctly or dispense across the body, I don't exactly know the exact issue of the dissolution issue, but I'm assuming it might be the capsule coating or something like that. That's a problem. So make sure I would, if you can't reach out to your doctor and you can't tell if your product is related to what the FDA is recalling, I would go to your pharmacy. The pharmacy is fantastic in terms of knowing what they have, what was given. They document all that. And so these are Glenmark and Blue Point. And it's not all of them, but some of them. So according to the FDA, they said consumers that have potassium chloride extended release capsules subject to the recall should consult with their physician or healthcare provider before they stop using the product, and they should contact their physician. So, what this reminds us, and I apologize, my allergies are still bad. By the way, allergy season can go well into the summer. I know many of us were expecting relief by June. No, still allergens out there. You're going to hear it from me. But when we talk about these medications, I am very frustrated with how much we trust the companies to do the right thing and how much we really rely on pills. A lot of us take a lot of medications. The majority of adults are on some sort of daily capsule or vitamin or pill. And you notice last week there was a report saying a lot of these multivitamins are not necessarily adding longevity to your life. And, maybe we need to rethink about, all the pills we're taking and understand that each one is very powerful. If you need potassium, you need it. But we act like right now, our approach to medicine was we just pop a pill and we're fine. There are people getting Percocets online for a high that are laced with fentanyl. And there's not that, okay, I'm about to put this in my mouth. We used to be very cautious. And we used to ask our medical provider what we're taking. There used to be a time limit. There used to be follow-up. I'm having people call up willy-nilly saying, yeah, I need more medicine. Like, have you had a follow-up? Has your blood work been checked? No. When you're taking a medication or you have a condition that requires a medication, it requires follow-up. We also want to make sure the medication's working. I can't tell you how many times people have been taking medication and to say, I don't know if it's working. And it could be a bad batch. It could be a dud. It could be a bad brand, or it could be the wrong dosing. And we have this attitude of just take a pill. Now, I'm very proud of how we have destigmatized illness, including mental illness, where if somebody does need to take a medication, it's not stigmatized like it used to be. But that does not imply we just pop pills willy-nilly. And so if you are taking potassium chloride, you should be having regular follow-ups with your medical provider. Anytime I added potassium to my patient's regimen, I immediately had them come back within a few days to a week to check their potassium, because obviously if I felt they needed it, their numbers were low. Then if I felt comfortable, I would let them go a few weeks, and then I would monitor them every few months. If you're not being monitored, I would get monitored. Now, somebody said, but Dr. Daliah, if their levels are fine, then they don't need to be monitored that much. Well, how do you know? What if they get a bad batch of pills? Many of us get generic medications. When we get generic medications, it's not always the same generic company. Sometimes your generic medication could come from a different company each month when you pick up your prescription. Don't you think you want that followed up on? And if you are requiring potassium, my guess is you're on a diuretic. And if you're on a diuretic, that means you either have congestive heart failure or high blood pressure, peripheral vascular disease, or some other condition that's requiring you to diurese. That means you need more active follow-up. And I know people are saying, look, you don't need doctors that much. It's just Dr. Daliah trying to raise money for other doctors. No, I'm not. Okay, I don't make any money telling you to get your health on track. In fact, I save taxpayers' money by doing that. It's just something like this scares me, that there could be medications out there that could possibly cause some serious health effects, and the average person is not going to the doctor. They're using telemedicine. Well, if your telemedicine provider is not running blood work as regular as they should be, that's a problem. So all I'm saying is keep in mind that most people have medical conditions that require a follow-up every 3 to 6 months. And if you notice your medication brand is changing, make sure for the love of the Lord that that's being followed up on as well. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon, or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians, only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I, like many women, worked throughout my pregnancy, and it would have really been nice to be able to have a little bit more flexibility. And we are very, very grateful for the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. It's a recent federal civil rights law that requires most employers with 15 or more employees to provide reasonable accommodations to their workers' known limitations related to pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions. Of course, unless the accommodation causes undue hardship to the employer. But the EEOC has just released new detailed regulations to help implement it, because I know a lot of employers employers want to make sure they're not doing the wrong thing. So providing some guidance is Chair of the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, Charlotte A. Burrows. And Charlotte, we are so happy to have you with us.
It's my pleasure. Hello.
Right. Well, talk to us about the PWFA and what it does for workers.
Absolutely. Well, Congress passed the PWFA, or Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, so that no one has to risk their job or their health just because they're pregnant, recovering from childbirth, or have a related medical condition. It's that simple. So what the law does is to provide employees and job applicants who are pregnant or have recently given birth with access to changes on the job so they can work safely. And these can be things like taking time off for medical attention in order to ensure healthy pregnancy, or taking a break to drink water, go to the bathroom more often, or being able to lift a lighter load on the job during pregnancy. And so it's really such an important issue that affects all of us, that it's terrific to have this law that really starts to get us closer to our values in terms of how we behave in the workplace, and just have pregnancy be treated like the normal part of life and work that it is.
And it's interesting because, a lot of women still feel that they can't bring it up. A lot of employers are a lot of places work are understaffed. They feel like not only could they possibly get fired, but they also feel like they're letting down their coworkers, their employer. And so many times, because I'll ask my pregnant patients, I go, "Didn't you take time off? Didn't you hydrate?" And they said, "I didn't want to do that because then my coworker." And so I think we need to also educate people on it's okay because you're taking care of a baby. You're allowed to take care of yourself, and this law does protect you. And I'm assuming it does protect people from getting fired. Correct?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad you raised that, because it's true that very first time particularly, but every time when you have to raise with the employer that, hey, you might need some flexibility here because of a pregnancy, a lot of workers feel that they're not quite comfortable. And so one of the reasons why we're reaching out now and doing a lot to reach out to employers is to say, hey, this is a conversation. Let's everybody, again, treat this like a normal part of life and a normal part of work, which it is. And yes, there is absolutely, right in the statute, a protection against retaliation and any kind of adverse action that somebody might take against a worker for raising this. That's protected just as much as any other part of the law with respect to reasonable accommodation. And it's really important to know that while it's a statute that tries to have employers and employees work through these things, there are teeth in the law. There is an ability, both for retaliation and for the lack of accommodations, for people to go to court, or for our agency, the EEOC, to bring a charge to court on behalf of the employee at no cost to them, if that's the better way to do it.
Mm-hmm. And what I tell my patients to do is, communication is key. You don't have to wait until you need the accommodation. Sometimes what I think the best path is when and you're comfortable sharing that, have that conversation where, look, my doctor might at a moment's notice need me to have, I just want to let you know, and I'm willing to work with you. And usually employers, especially with this law, should be accommodating. But, you could have the conversation, anytime. It doesn't always have to be at, with an emergency. And so when patients tell me, should I tell my employer now? It's up to you. But I always like early communication so that there could be that plan. And then the employer is less, puts less stress on that employee as well.
Absolutely. And it allows both the employee and the employer to plan and to, they can reevaluate that plan as things go forward if the additional problems crop up, but it really makes it much easier and less stressful, I think. And workers really don't have to have any special magic words in order to get an accommodation. They just reach out to the employer. They can talk to their supervisor or the person who gives them assignments and HR and ask for what it is that they need to accommodate either that childbirth, pregnancy, or related medical condition.
We're speaking to Chair Charlotte Burrows, Chair of the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission on the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. Now, what if the opposite happens, where the employer says, look, we want you to take leave to protect yourself, and the worker's like, but I want to keep working? What happens in those situations?
That's such a great question. So employees should not be required to accept leave or any other accommodation that's not been discussed with them first and agreed to. And really, in a situation where leave is on the table, it really should be used as a reasonable accommodation only if the employee requests it or there's no other way to accommodate the limitation for the worker that doesn't create some sort of undue hardship. And when I say undue hardship, that really means, under the law, significant expense or difficulty for the employer. And the way that the law is set up is that if the employer really thinks it has an undue hardship, there's a requirement for what's called an interactive process with employees, which means just go ahead, communicate early and often, exactly as you said, and understand the limitation and explore some potential alternatives. So really, because, and this is so important because often leave is unpaid, that process has to happen first before an employer says, not doing it, you got to go on leave, but to really explore what else could be done so the employee can stay at work, particularly if it's going to mean that the employee loses income while they are expecting.
Right. Yeah. We had a case where an employer did not, during the COVID pandemic, did not want the pregnant employee to get sick, and told them because of, the vaccination and all the other issues going on, that they were so concerned that they would get sick from COVID, to not come in unless their doctor said it was okay. And the patient couldn't get, or the employee couldn't get their doctor to say it's okay, and the employee couldn't work. And so, yeah, sometimes I love the fact that you guys are offering more guidance, because it gets a little tricky because employers are afraid of also doing harm, and so it could be confusing. But communication, documentation, and if an employer is not willing to provide an accommodation, a covered worker or employee luckily does have an avenue in which to receive help.
That's right. And sometimes it may be really in all good faith that people haven't been able to figure out exactly how to accommodate something. And so I want to make sure that your listeners know that the U.S. Department of Labor's Job Accommodation Network, or JAN, can help in those circumstances. JAN really provides free confidential accommodation assistance. Our agency, the EEOC, is also busy, I think probably even right now, creating as many resources and simple fact sheets as we can. We've got videos and tips so that employers and employees and everyone interested can get that information. The regulation is also out there, but it's long, and so we're getting the information as much as we can in whatever way we can.
How can my listeners find out more information?
Well, I would love if they would take down the following number, which is the EEOC's 1-800 if they would like. It's 1-800-669-4000. That's 1-800-669-4000. Or you can go on the internet, www.eeoc.gov.
Thank you so much, Chair Burrows. We really appreciate it. Can't wait to have you back. Hi, guys. Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.